Okay, we're going to resume here, page 105. There was a young lady who in retrospect monitored the black residents at Baylor, especially those in the emergency room. Negative comments about the black residents on the surgery rotation, as well as a confession from her, came after sufficient alcohol. It appeared that she reported directly to DeBakey. Speaking of DeBakey, and she had a German name. I wish I could remember, Hilfiger or something like that. This ended up, I believe, in Sweezer getting moved on to another place. And anyway, it was kind of strange the way they had us under surveillance. Speaking of DeBakey, there was a resident who was alleged to be his son. He looked like DeBakey, especially the nose. His mother had been an executive secretary to him and to that great surgeon, and as rumor had it, everything was planned on her part. The resident underwent more ridicule and persecution because of the aforementioned rumor. He eventually quit the surgery program at the Baylor College of Medicine and went into OB, where he was scheduled in OB at the Valley Medical Center. He has a successful practice in California now. There were mysterious deaths in our emergency room. The problem was that most of them were black men. Sure, there's a high mortality rate expected in any major ER, but for some reason, particularly high and predominant were black men who did not make it. A Nigerian doc came down and made a presentation to the Houston Medical Forum, which was ignored. After I left training, he was nearly laughed off the podium by the leadership of the Houston Medical Forum at that time, and I must say that this is one of the exceptions at Baylor that I never saw at UT, both at Dallas and had heard anything about it in Houston, of misuse of trying to document experience. And I did witness one person that had difficulty getting intubated, rather difficult intubation, who eventually expired, but again, almost makes me cry. One case was particularly riveting that I had contact with. This young man, when interviewed by me as an intern, told me that he was going to die. I told him that he wasn't, and we went into surgery for what had been a botched chest tube insertion and scarring. When the anesthesiologist released the patient, apparently there were good vital signs at that time, I assume. After an uneventful removal of the scar tissue and replacement during the surgery, I and another nurse took him to the room to recovery. He starts seizing along the way, and what appears to be a lost, and it appears that he lost his oxygen exchange sometime after his intubation. I was given a set of normal vitals and basically thought that he was okay, but at the time, looks like he had been deprived of oxygen for some time. After all these years, the only possibilities that I can grab this as a location for these murders was the transfer of the patient that was supposed to be on oxygen to carbon monoxide, I guess, after the surgery, or a lack of proper intubation in the first place, a lack of proper induction of maintenance of anesthesia, causing the patient to essentially feel the surgery. I know this happened at least one time. This was the most likely in my estimation. This could have been intentional or unintentional, but the data is too strong to be unintentional. There was a male nurse friend of mine who was there the whole time that this was going on. His name was Michael, and unfortunately we're not able to get any information from him now because he died also. I suspect he knew. As I said, he died in 2008. When I'm released, I'm going to ask his widow, and I need to try to catch up with her and see if he shared anything with her. Here we go. I have Jay was someone I literally prayed for in the early 80s. She helped me set up Peter's production and helped me get it off the ground in Houston. I will be eternally grateful to her forever. Only God could send a person in your life to give you so much and be so beautiful. She introduced me to the need for printed media and any production. She made brochures for me and introduced me to Kinko's as a resource to get these jobs done. We used the methods taught in order to market the event. It was her original idea to continue to tape everything, which we did. And I say we, she wasn't there, but I did it at Garcias, at Pizzazz, at the Black Stallion, and a club whose name escapes me now on Fannin, which was the Winners Club. That's what it was. We grossed $1,700 a week before I paid everyone at the 4 clubs. And that was in the early 80s. All while winding up my training. Of course, that was late 81, at the time when training was about over. I was not doing powder cocaine at the time to self-cure my sleep apnea, but I did pick up my first case for putting out an informant who could not play drums out of the Winners Club. Basically, I told him not to sit in, and even though he was good friends with one of my players that played at Pizzazz, who never did come over to the Winners Club, I guess out of anger, because he eventually quit. Remember, player sicked the undercover agent on us. Club Garcia was run by Garcia Milburn's brother, Amos Milburn. Amos Milburn's brother, Garcia Milburn. He was helped by his wife, Tula Milburn, a Republican from, of all places, Seattle, Washington. They ran essentially that hole in the wall where all the musicians came to. Anybody that was of any repute as a musician came there to sit in. The little weed that I smoked ever was in part at Garcias. Of course, there were those who told that too. It couldn't wait to tell it. That here it is, this doctor comes out here and smokes weed. I was out of training at that time, though, in private practice, but anyway. I never saw any hard drugs out there. There were movie makers, photographers, and politicians interested in the history that was being made. Rumor has it that a smart politician recorded here everything, and everything at a shack called Pecos in 5th Ward. My favorite musician of all time played here. I say that because of his adapting from electric to upright bass, even playing with Freddie Hubbard, to piano of all things. He even played, as I said, behind Freddie Hubbard at a concert produced by Van Harrison. Wow. How can I describe this club? Run by a jazz lover who always drank on the job, and we're talking about the Ritzy, but had a girlfriend that his son hated so much that he burned the club down over on when it moved from down on Blodgett to up on Blodgett near Alameda. For those potentially litigious reasons, the club will go unnamed. Well, it's not unnamed now, but we call it Flossie, but we're not going to call it Flossie. We're going to call it Ritzy like it was. It was here that I met Joe Nettles, again, one of my mentors, Conrad Johnson, the whole total 5th Ward Express here and at Pecos, and of course at the sound stage. Anyway, let's see, we also talk about the organ player whose name was Kenny Andrews, who was another genius within the confines of Houston, all those geniuses. We have videotape coverage of them that's actually on YouTube already. Kenny Andrews, and also don't forget Don Wilkerson later. I think Don was locked up when I first got to Houston and got out afterward. Anyway, we also had Kenny Abear, whose name was actually reversed from Herbert Kenny to Kenny Abear. This all happened on Sunday evenings before I got the Pizzazz gig, okay? And after I gave it up, both before and after, where we'd go there. Spooky was there. Don was dancing. And we've got a video posted, Dancing Don. People were drinking, of course. Sometimes people were drinking milk just to get in there. And I remember one gentleman who quit drinking. He was on the wagon. Every time you see him, he'd have a half gallon of milk. But others were ordering setups to drink their liquor, BYOB, and order beer and wine from the establishment, which is the same way that Garcias was run. Above all, Conrad Johnson was there as the moderator and royalty for all of his students to see. Conrad was about 70 then. He lived to be 90. I could do nothing but wait my turn to join him playing in his big band for such prestigious events as hosting Gloria Steinem for the National Women's Conference and some other large jobs in the city for the great society that is in Houston. Jimmy Walker was his main man doing a lot of the arrangements and everything else relative to the business. I used Jimmy Walker to play trombone and the amazing range on trumpet of Mr. Keith Anderson on a recording project, recording Kimberly Records' finest, Mickey Is Gone, and also with Joe Medrick, If I Don't Get Involved, I Won't Get Hurt. This was recorded with Joe Medrick VC on vocals. When I started getting airplay on K-Rice, KTSU, and KPFT, we took off from our humble beginnings, meeting people at these various clubs. I could not have done anything without all those mentioned. And we're going to just stop it right now. I think we've got enough material, or probably too much, for to not break up. But we love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.